Do you like board games? Of course you do. Who wouldn't? I certainly do. And for the longest time, I've wanted to create a great, nay, the best, board game table in existence. I'm talking felt pockets to roll dice in, an inlay TV screen to put virtual boards on, built-in wireless phone charging, clip-on cup holders, built-in speakers, and a cover to turn it on to a regular table when you're not using it. But I need woodworking tools to make this dream a reality. I just graduated. I don't have any. And where better to get these tools than Princess Auto, Canada's best shop for equipment, tools, and more. Alright, so, cool video, right? That was my submission to Princess Auto's Project Spotlight competition. And guess what? I won! Yay! However, small problem, now I actually need to build this thing. Now, from that 3D model I showed, it might look like I have a good idea of what I'm doing, but I don't. That video was just a solid model I quickly made on the computer. It has no actual components to it. So, without any woodworking experience, I need to build a table with
felt pockets to roll dice in, an inlay TV screen to put virtual boards on, built-in wireless phone charging, clip-on cup holders, built-in speakers, and a cover to turn it on to a regular table when you're not using it.
Alright, well, first step is to make an actual plan. After talking to some people who actually know what they're doing, I came up with this design. It's a frame made of 2x4s with cutouts to hold the TV. On top of that, there are 2 layers of plywood sandwiched together with the felt for rolling the dice in between. I think this is a workable design, so let's get started. The first step was to go get the materials. After a quick trip to my local lumberyard, I was good to go. For my computer model, I made some measurements with the 2x4s and then began cutting. Using a jigsaw, I then cut out grooves in the 2x4s that were roughly the shape of the back of the TV, so it rests snugly on it. After I cut all my pieces, I put them together to make a discovery. So, when I first made this project, I made it all out of 2x4s, and I assumed that 2x4s measured 2 inches by 4 inches, because, you know, it's in the name, and I assumed that names meant things. Turns out that was a ridiculous assumption. Turns out 2x4s measure 1.5 by 3.5 inches. Who would have known? Well, it's getting late. I need to go back to the wood store tomorrow. After taking a moment to regain my sanity, I bought some more wood to fix my mistake. Once again, some measuring and cutting was in order. With pieces cut out, I needed a way to join them. For this, I used pocket holes, which is a super easy way to join pieces of wood. With a 2x4 frame assembled, it was time to work on the TV. For that, I used an old TV I had lying around. However, due to the way the TV was configured, the speakers would be pressed right against a piece of wood in my table. This would lead to the sound getting muffled. Caution. To prevent electrical shock, do not remove this cover. Sure, it's fine. To fix this, I just had to remove the speakers and mount them upside down on the table. I also had to cut down the TV a bit so it would fit inside the table. As well, to keep the circuit boards from getting crushed, I moved them too. Next, all I had to do was tidy up the wiring a bit, and then I could assemble the frame and make sure the TV actually fit. For the felt, my friend donated me a large section of gaming felt that I could use for the build. For this, I simply cut out squares from 2 sheets of plywood and sandwiched the felt in between. I also used a plunger to cut out recessed pockets for the pieces of felt to fit into. Next, all I had to do was staple in each piece of felt, and then I could sandwich together the 2 pieces of plywood, which gave me the finished tabletop. But before the entire thing could be assembled, the plywood first had to be sanded and then stained. I'm really happy with the way that the stain made the plywood look. Before the 2 pieces of plywood could be screwed together, I had to insert the wireless charging modules. For this, I purchased a number of wireless chargers from princessauto.com, and then disassembled them to the bare circuit boards. I did this so that there would be a minimal gap in between the wireless charging modules and a phone placed on the table. I then used a plunge rotor again to create pockets for the wireless charging modules, as well as pathways for the wires to be run. For the table legs, I simply cut down some pieces of 8x8. I also installed some LEDs into the table frame at this point. And with that, the base of the table was complete. I had a functioning TV screen, as well as pockets to roll my dice in. Next, I had to make a topper to turn the gaming table into a regular table while in use. For this, I just took a sheet of plywood and then cut a frame around it, once again staining it to match the rest of the table. For the cup holders, I modeled these cleats and 3D printed a bunch of them. These can be mounted all around the table on the underside, so as to create a point that the cup holders could clip onto. For the cup holders themselves, I came up with this design, which features a central piece of plywood, as well as a 3D printed attachment to hold the cup, and a set of 3D printed clamps to grab onto the cleats. To create the plywood pieces, I 3D printed outline, which I then traced onto a piece of plywood. This allowed me to consistently cut identical cup holder shapes. I then stained them the same color as the table and attached the 3D printed parts with screws. Finally, since one of my favorite games to play is Dungeons & Dragons, I used some of the scrap plywood to make a DM screen, using my university's laser engraver to engrave a custom design. And with that, the table was finally complete. Working on this project has been so much fun. Thank you so much to Princess Auto for funding me and allowing me to purchase the tools necessary to make this project possible.